Few new parcels turned up yesterday, so we're going to have a look, see what we've got in these, but I'm hoping it's something to replace these old fuel pipes with. So let's have a quick look. Okay, these look like my new 2BA bolts to hold the tank on, because the ones I had were far too long and packed over washers. So I'm hoping, let's get rid of my plastic because I think that's healed it. I'm hoping those will now do the job without the washers. They look about right, so fingers crossed. All shiny, and we've got some new 2BA lock nuts to go with it. Fuel pipe, a bit more fuel pipe, some more fuel pipe, an opening in somewhere, there we go, a couple of clips, and there should be some more clips in there in amongst all this paperwork. So fuel filter and some clips, so no reason why I shouldn't get that slipper tank on next. And some of the plumbing done. That's good. So there we have the new bolts in place. I made up these little washers out of aluminium, these square ones, just to spread the load a little bit more, because these bolt heads are going through the fibre lam and suspending the back end of the tank. And I just felt that it'd be nice to spread the load a little bit more as it weighs down on that piece of the material. Sure, that can't do any harm. So I've just realised I've made a mistake on my order, which cost me 15 quid and a bit of a delay on time, because the breather pipe that I've ordered is the wrong bore. Should have got the smaller stuff, damn it. And it also means that I can't really fix this tank in position, because once I've done that I'm not going to be able to put this on very successfully, so that's a bit annoying. What I will do though is I will cut all the pipe work and fix it where I can, and then I'll have to finish it off with the final install. Fortunately, I had the same mistake with the fuel pipe, so I'm going to cut some new lengths just to replace this bit, and I can use the old bit as a bit of a template. What is really noticeable is how much more brittle feeling the old pipe is to the new, so quite pleased to be putting this on there. And the old filter there compared to the new one. So let's get cracking with the Stanley knife. So there we have the old pipe compared to the new pipe. All the new clips and filters on there. I even put a bit of Loctite on the clips, just because I've got time to make it spot on. So I'm just going to pop that onto the fuel cut-off valve, and I'll leave that dangling ready to connect to the slipper tank when I've got the new hose. Right, next I'm going to do the fuel pipe from the cut-off valve across the back of the engine and through the primer bulb and up into the fuel pump. I've noticed where people tend to attach these items to the engine subframe, they put some sort of protection where the fuel pipe is in contact with the subframe. So I found this that I've had from a previous project, and it's like a cable protector, stop any chafing. So I've just got a strip of that and I've cable tied it to that area on the pipe, and I'll do another bit on the other piece that then routes through to the cut-off valve. More eagle-eyed viewers may have noticed that I've started bringing a flask in, but that's not for my tea. That's just to soften up the hoses a little bit so I can get them to push onto the unions a little bit easier, and it works quite well. So there's the primer bulb fitted, and the hose is protected, everything where it could come in contact with the frame. So I'll put some of this shielding on there, on here where it crosses over, and just here where it touches the hanger tube. There's some springs that were originally on there that come with it to protect it as it goes through the subframe. I put a little bit of a kink here so that it avoids the bottom of the engine and doesn't chafe on this bit. It's a little bit longer than it needs to be, but it's got to go down another inch or so there and tighten up a bit. But I've tried to keep the curves as flowing as possible, so nothing's got any strain on it, where I can avoid that. So I think, yeah, that's worked out quite well. I've also been admiring the contents of the old fuel filter, and there's all manner of stuff in there. There's all bits of dried out residue, looks like sand, pieces of metal. There's even a lump of plastic in there as well, I've seen floating around. So they obviously do quite a good job, because that would have all gone through the old engine. Let's hope the new filter does just a good job. Right, I'm going to have a crack at a job that I've been putting off for a while, which is to make a complicated sort of a bracket with which to mount the oil tank in the rear passenger compartment. So there's my template, there's my bit of aluminium. Let's see what comes of that. So here's the finished bracket, treated to a bit of the shiny treatment, and even though you won't see it because it'll be on the bulkhead, and a few holes just to lighten some of the material out. So I've just put these this bracket in here behind here, because this was the original bracket that was on the opposite side of the bulkhead to where the ignition system was in the box. So potentially that will be on the other side of where the battery box is. So they'll sort of sit back to back. Sort of like that. A little bit lower down, because obviously this hasn't got the holes drilled in it yet. So there's only one mounting point for the oil can. I need to check that that's alright. It'll sort of be supported by the battery box on the opposite side as well. So that's the plan. Seems to have gone quite nicely. Just got to try and work out whether I need to reinforce this bulkhead at all. David Gore, who built the plane, recommended that I bond in some washers and some tubes through the fibre lamp, stop it getting crushed when I screw it all up, which makes a lot of sense. So what I may do is loosely assemble it all, so I can put all my wire into my battery and other bits and pieces, and then I'll have that discussion when I take it down to the airfield to have a final bit of work signed off. We may do some amendments to that, but that's the basic bracket or brackets, so I can loosely mount them for now. And then I think we've got to make a start on some wiring soon, so that'll be the next big step. So there's the oil tank in its intended location. They sort of act as a passenger headrest up there. I'm not going to drill any holes in this bulkhead yet until I get some advice when I go down to the airfield, but that's where I've seen them before. On this side though, I'm presented with a slight problem in the fact that, I'm just going to lift that down, this battery box seems to be fouling the coolant pipe there, and it's pushed on as far as it will go. Might be able to shorten it a little bit more, but that means it's then going to contact the cylinder head. So I may have to try and see if I can wiggle that around a little bit. Maybe if I shorten it and then maybe lengthen this bottom bit out so it'll pass through on a bit of an angle. That might be the solution, because I think if I shorten the top a little bit, there is a big enough gap for that pipe, but I may just need to trim a little bit off that top piece and back this one off just 1/4 of an inch maybe. It should be enough there, just so that it follows the angle through there and doesn't fail on either the battery case and the cylinder head. If anybody else has got any ideas, I'd be glad to hear them. In episode 13 I was giving away a book that I'd read by Eve Jackson, who is a shadow pilot and owner that emigrated to not Australia, to Africa in her shadow. It's a really good read, and Glenn, who's a fellow shadow pilot and owner from the airfield where I'm learning to fly down at Old Sarum, he's bagged that one. But I've just finished this book by Brian Milton. And I know Martin Lockett, you were interested in the Eve Jackson book, so if you want to get in touch, I'll send this one on to you. Thoroughly good read. Brian Milton, the Dalgety flyer. He flew from London to Sydney. Got into all sorts of scrapes. How he's still alive, I'll never know. Flying in all sorts of horrendous weather. Stories of where he's descending through clouds so he can get some visibility again, only to find that he's in a valley surrounded by mountains. He got flipped over after a safe landing on a Greek island, but very strong winds turned the Shadow upside down. It was skidding along the runway on its wings and basically was all torn up in a right mess. Within 4 days they patched it all up and off he went again, only to then about a week or two later ran out of fuel, had to ditch it in the ocean, got rescued. The aircraft was bobbing around at sea for 24 hours. They managed to get it pulled out. They rinsed it all off, they put all new instruments in it, swapped it to the spare engine, and he flew on, and he made it all the way to Sydney. So any doubt at all about how strong these aircraft are, they're as tough as old boots, and it's a thoroughly good read. So Martin, if you get in touch, I'll pop that in the post for you. Currently reading another book which was lent to me by the builder of my aircraft, David, and yeah, thoroughly enjoying that as well. I'm only a little way in, but already I'm learning a few things about my aircraft, such as the fact it's been to Belgium, and it's been to Mull and a few other places overseas as well. So thoroughly good bit of research. So I'd thoroughly recommend this book as well.